Mitchtram here. So real quick, before we get started, I do want to tell you that KastKing did send me this reel to test. Now, they're not telling me what to say, and they're not seeing this video before it goes live. These will just be my honest thoughts after fishing it. So I'm about to head down to the Frio River. This is a yearly trip that we take. We float the river. I usually cook some barbecue, and I always try to sneak in a little bit of fishing while I'm there. And this time I'm taking this KastKing Al-Ti Elite reel. Most of the time when I go down there, I bring either an ultralight spinning setup or I bring my BFS reel. The water is crystal clear. The fish are typically smaller. There are some bigger fish, but most of the fish you catch are pretty small. And a lot of the baits that I throw are really light. So this time I'm leaving my BFS reel at home, and I put this KastKing Al-Ti Elite on a light rod. I spooled it with really light line, and I'm gonna fish it like I typically fish my BFS reel. I've got baits from like this 3/32 of an ounce crankbait that's super tiny. Got 1/8 ounce spoons, little tiny finesse, fluke type baits. I'm gonna fish all of that, and we're gonna see how this thing really performs. Can this reel bridge the gap between a normal baitcaster and a true BFS reel? So let's get out on the water and let's give it a try. All right, I'm on the Frio River today. I come to this river once a year, and there's a lot of fish in this river, but they're mainly pretty small fish. So I usually bring my BFS reel. This year, I left my BFS reel at home, and I'm trying to see how well this KastKing Al-Ti will perform throwing really light lures. So we're starting off with this tiny little spoon. I don't know if this is 1/16 of an ounce or 1/8 of an ounce, but it's a little bitty guy. And we're just gonna test this reel out. I put a very light line on it. It's on an ultralight rod, and we're gonna treat it like a BFS reel because the claim is that it will throw lures down to, I believe, a 1/16 of an ounce. We're gonna see how well that claim holds up. It's absolutely casting this little spoon perfectly. Couldn't ask for it to cast it better, in all honesty. There we go. Little fish already. Oh, he spit it. You guys see that? All right, now we have a very small Finesse style weedless soft plastic. Let's see what this does for us. This is probably somewhere in between a 1/16 of an ounce and an 1/8 of an ounce. It's very light. It casts nicely though. We're gonna work it real slow. There we go. Little bitty bass. There's our little guy on this tiny finesse worm. There's another little one.
Little big guy, put him back. There we go. Little guy. Tiny little jig. All right. There we go. Well, he's trying to spit it. That might be our biggest fish. There we go. Got us little guy on the crankbait. That is a big bluegill.
All right, so after fishing this reel on the Frio River with baits from about a 1/4 ounce down to around 3/32 an ounce, I can say it did perform very well overall. Now, is it a true BFS reel? No, I would not call it a true BFS reel. But I can say I wasn't really missing my BFS setup either. If all you want to do is throw tiny little baits all of the time, a dedicated BFS reel is the better tool, or an ultralight spinning setup is the better tool. That's what those are built for. But that's not really what impressed me the most with this reel. When I think about this reel, what impressed me is that the reel can still fish like a normal bait caster, but then you can switch it to a lighter rod, tie on something small, and it doesn't feel out of place. I wasn't having to force the cast. I wasn't having to try to really sling it out there. A smooth, easy cast was enough to get those lighter lures out there, which was nice. And that really matters with light lures. Anybody that has fished them know this, because if you try to really sling it out there, probably 9 times out of 10, that cast will just mess up and you'll end up with this big backlash in it. The braking system on the reel, it handled, pretty well overall. I got a loop here and there, and you can see that in the video. The reel stayed very controlled overall. The drag, it's smooth. The palming is really nice. It does palm very well. And I caught a lot of fish on different baits, and there's some of those in the video as you saw, which is really what I wanted to see. Can I fish this? Can I be successful with it, treating it as an ultralight type setup? So overall, it's a great reel, but I'm not going to sit there and tell you that this reel has proven itself like my Corrado Ks. Those are my go-to reels. I use them all the time, and I just always reach for them. But I've had those reels for years. I've fished them hard. I fished them in fresh. I fished them in salt. They've held up, and they still perform just about as well as they did when they were new. And that kind of durability and trust, it takes time. I've only had this reel for a little over a month at this point. So long-term durability is still the question that's out there. But performance-wise, For this reel right now, I'm truly impressed with this reel. The performance is right up there with some of the bigger names. What I can say is, you know, if you're looking for a reel that can handle normal bass fishing, but also lets you drop down to lighter finesse baits better than most other bait casters out there, this reel has done a really great job of that for me. Something that I think KastKing could do to make this reel even more enticing to people is to include a second spool with it. That would make a lot of sense for a reel like this that can throw out wide variety of baits. One spool for normal bait caster use and one spool for those lighter finesse type baits. That way you could just drop one in depending on what you're doing. So, you know, when I think about the time on the Frio River this year, it gave me a lot more confidence in this reel's ability to cast a wide variety of lures, because I spent the whole time casting things from a 1/4 ounce down. When we think about this reel, it's not a full replacement for a BFS setup, but it gets really close. I had no trouble throwing any of the baits I used, even the two that were around 3/32 of an ounce. Now, these little 3/32 of an ounce baits, they didn't cast as far as they do on my BFS setup. I'm not going to pretend like they did, but they still casted well, and I still caught fish on them. They casted a respectable distance, so I didn't feel like I was really missing out. If you're only throwing finesse style baits every now and then, I would say that this reel would be hard to beat as an all-around bait caster. If you want to see my first look at this reel and how it casts with more standard bass lures and fish catches, I'll link that video right here. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see you next time.